Hey, yo, what's up? It's your boy, Sir, of the 2020 Podcast, LLC. Please say the LLC. And before you listen to this episode, I just got to let you know, I need you to stop what you're doing. Go to blkrenaissance.com, and I need you to shop for the culture. That's right. Anytime you use the promo code LLC20 at Black Renaissance Clothing's website, you will get 20% off your order. Off rip, no questions asked. So do me a favor and do it for the culture. Peace.
The self-destruct sequence has been activated. Repeat, the self-destruct sequence has been activated. This sequence may not be aborted. All employees proceed to the emergency car at the bottom platform.
Okay, we lit it just like a fuse, so no need to pick and choose. Welcome to 2020, where we do more than interviews. The hottest be coming through, jumping knowledge on all of you. Get a peek at the front of you with the truth that they offer you. Yeah, hands up, we doing it for the culture. To give artists and businesses more exposure. Keeping it real and stay solid just like a boulder. It's about to go all the way down, can't get no lower. Chasing my dreams, know that they get no slower. But if I stay running, I promise they getting closer. Moreover, success my older. And if you're sleeping on me, I'm waking them up like Folgers. I told you, coming from the land with the tide roll. Well, we'll be on a whole different vibe though. We like to ride slow and keep our windows tinted so you really can see us like Stevie Wonder waking up with his eyes closed. Yeah, got the kind of flow that rock the boat. On my 16s of pounds of dough. And if you figure you can hang with me on the mic, then grab some rope. Matter of fact, better grab some hope. While you at it, we keep it live, it's time to tune in. Turn up the sound on what you're using. It goes so hard, I think it's bruising. The show is 2020, no need to zoom in. Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of A Business Minute with the 2020 Podcast, LLC. Please say the LLC if you'll do anything else. And I have a special guest today, Miss Jessica Keesee, and she's here today with us on a rescheduling of sorts. So before we even get started, let me just say thank you for taking time out of your day twice to set up this interview on such short notice. So I really appreciate you.
No, thank you so much for having me. I understand things happen, so no worries. I'm just glad that you felt the need to even decide to interview me. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, pleasure's all here. So let's go ahead and get started. So Miss Jessica, if anybody wanted to know what it is that you do, what would you tell them? What would you tell to our listeners and viewers today?
So I am a certified life coach. I specialize in mindfulness as well as premarital coaching and healing. At the core of anything that we are, if our mind is right, everything else gonna follow behind it. So I definitely want us to get into a place where we truly understand what we feel and own our feelings. We don't have to do anything to please everybody else. I know that's kind of what we grew up because we've always been trained to please our parents and to do well in school. And all of those things are important. But if you can't look yourself in the mirror and be excited about the person that's looking back at you, it really doesn't matter about anybody else. It's between you and you, you know? So at the core of anything, I want us to just realize who we are, flawed and all. We're beautiful in and out. It doesn't matter. You can recover from mistakes. You can recover, so that is really what I am focused on, just getting our minds right.
That really resonated with me. You can recover. That's important. That's important. Understanding and accepting mistakes and not lingering on them, but learning from them is key. I enjoy that. I like that point.
Yeah, I'm telling you, and it's crazy because I have really learned. I'm excited when I make a mistake because that means I've done something different. Usually, if you're doing the same thing over and over again, then you already know the outcome. But if I make a mistake, that means I tried something different. That didn't work out, but that gives me room to realize what I didn't do right, or I can come back. You know what I'm saying? So I'm excited about mistakes. That's showing me growth. I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, if you will.
Right. And it's interesting. With the mistake comes opportunity. So in essence, if you don't make the mistake and have taken the chance, it doesn't truly mean you've, utilized the opportunity to its full benefit.
I totally agree with that because that gives you the opportunity to ask other questions that you didn't even know that you needed to ask from the beginning. Just imagine, now I made this mistake, but now I met so-and-so, and now they get to open me up to somebody else, and to, you know what I'm saying? So I know some of the mistakes that we make, it seems to be detrimental, because God knows I've made my fair share of them. I've put myself in some circumstances and some situations that I didn't need to be in. However, I'm better for it today. So if you realize that all things work together for your good, for those who love God, because I'm very spiritual at the core of who I am. I'm a very spiritual person, and I love my Lord God with everything on the inside of me. But with him, I can definitely recover. I don't have to figure it out by myself. So
it sounds like you're rooted, and that's important.
Man, I'm telling you, and it was through those mistakes that I became rooted. I got a praying grandmother and a praying mother, but it's something about being able to pray for yourself. It's something about being able to encourage yourself. It's something about your words being the ointment that you need. You know what I mean? It's something special about that. I can encourage anybody. I'm good at that. But I failed at learning the right words to say to me. So when I was able to use those same words and mean it, because now you can say whatever, but it's something special when you speak life over yourself and you mean it and you walk in it. That's just a different kind of feeling. I can get through anything because I believe in me.
That's important.
Yeah.
That's the important thing overall, believing in oneself.
Right.
Okay, I like where this conversation is going already. We haven't even gotten to the I like where it's going.
Right.
So my next question is, how long have you been active in your field of being a life coach?
So I think I've been active since probably 3, if I can be honest, because one thing that I've learned that I didn't have the choice. It chose me. I've always been that person. My mom, she used to tell me all the time, I'll be in the grocery store and I would give my money to people that didn't have the money at the register. You know, I would get my little allowance, but then if they were digging or something, I do that now, and it's crazy because even I don't like to see people digging in their purses and look, here you go, I got it. But that's kind of who I've always been. Even at times when I wasn't the best that I could be, I've always been able to be that person to somebody else. And so, but as Living Well with Jess, because that's the name of my business, I've only been doing that since July. I take that back. No, May of 2020. So in the midst of the pandemic, I decided to bet on me. I decided that this was my time because I was always used to having excuses. And I work 2 and 3 jobs, and my wife is in the military and she's been deployed a couple times. I have 4 children. And so running here and there and doing everything for everybody else, I had the opportunity to focus on me. And so I betted on Jessica. And so here's Living Well with Jess. Even in the midst of that, I was able to publish my first book. It's called Own Your Mess in 14 Days or Less. So you get to sit with you for 14 days. You don't get to blame nobody else for any decisions that you made other than yourself. And not to say that you're going to be completely healed, but you can definitely see yourself from those places. You know what? I could have did this differently. One of the favorite questions one of the most favorite question I have in the book was, were you honest with yourself about who you were, or did you send a representative? Because even in our own situations, we don't show up for us. We show up for the person we think we should be. You know what I mean? And so that question hit me because while I was writing the book, I was asking myself these questions. I was looking back at my life. One of the first questions I think I asked was, how did you get here? That was a hard question to answer because I didn't make the right decisions because I chose to be around the wrong people, or simply because that's just what I wanted to do. And then that leads to, well, why did you feel like you needed to act like that? Then that leads to, well, where is that rooted from? Because everything that pretty much we deal with is rooted from something.
Right.
So the book was really eye-opening for me. And so it's a self-help journal that we all get to just look at ourselves and realize where we are and where we want to be, and not in a negative sense. I affirm you throughout the book. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you were right here. However, comma, you still okay. You're still worthy. You're still enough. And those are the things that we don't realize when we're going through, because we beat ourselves up. We talk about ourselves so bad. We can have empathy for everybody else, but God forbid we make that one mistake and it's the end of the world for our own self. So
Man.
I want to change that narrative.
No, that's powerful. There's plenty of lives to save like that.
Yeah.
I'll be transparent because here at the 2020 podcast, we thrive on transparency. I am very much guilty of what you're speaking of. I make one mistake and I will just berate myself. And it took one time for someone to overhear me. And I won't even say overhear me. It was over text message. It was just one little sentence fragment I put. And they said, hey, stop being so hard on yourself. And I was like, whoa, I'm being hard on myself. Like, and it triggered the thought process
Right.
of, wow, I do not give myself slack for any, wrong that I may do unintentionally. So, and you're right, it does uncover certain traumas, certain upbringings that aren't aligned with your, I guess, the best path for yourself mentally, physically, or spiritually. So it's important to identify that early if you really want to maximize your growth, because you can, just like you can self-soothe, you can self-damage.
You can. And I know for me, and if we're just going to be transparent for a moment, I know for me, I noticed the down spiral of me beating myself up was when I was a teenage mother. And I was active in church. I did everything in church. Oh my gosh. If there was a program, a communication, everything that was related to church, I did. And as soon as I got pregnant, those same people praised me in church was those same people that tore me down. And I was 18. That was a very traumatic experience for me. And honestly, it took me until, if I can really be honest, probably about 7-8 years ago for me actually to come back to God in the full sense, in the sense of my relationship is personal with him. Nobody gets to dictate that relationship. And then it just kind of started uncovering things for me, and the space that I stayed in, because I was so upset and I was so angry and I wasn't able to receive anything from anybody because it just felt fake and phony. Because when I needed somebody to take me in as this 18-year-old mother and love on me and show me some type of understanding, because I now have this kid, I don't know what to do with this kid. I'm 18. And that was the time for people to take me in and love on me. And it's almost like, and I had my family, true enough, but I had an entire village. It wasn't just my mom and my grandmother and my sister. I had a village of people that I felt like failed me. That's exactly what it felt like to me. And so then once I started realizing that, then I realized I did not want to be that person. I didn't want nobody to miss God because of anything that I did, because I knew how that felt. And so then my mindset just kind of started changing. It was about 8 years ago. And then my conversation changed, the relationships I was in changed, my friendships changed, because I didn't want to be in that toxic space anymore. I was feeling sorry for myself, and everybody that I was attached to, we was attached because of trauma, because of mess. I didn't want that anymore. I wanted some well-rounded people. I didn't want to be the smartest one in the room, if you will. I needed to grow from somebody, and in a sense of I was able to thrive and see me, not not to knock anybody, because I think people come into your life for seasons and reasons and things like that. But for me, I just knew I wanted to be different, and I didn't want to be angry, and I didn't want to be mad anymore. I wanted to be released from all those feelings. I wanted to live in my truth, having children and then being gay on top of all of that. I was hiding behind a lot of things that I no longer wanted to bound me. I just wanted to live in my truth. And when I decided that my truth was good enough for me, my whole life changed. It was almost overnight. It just, even though things still wasn't panning out the way that I wanted them to, because for a minute I was homeless, I was couch surfing here, there with my kids. And I lost my car, I lost my apartment, I was evicted. My car was repossessed. I lost a lot of physical things, but I gained so much more mentally, emotionally. I used to work in Mobile. I used to work in the money center at Walmart, and nobody probably knew that I was living on somebody's sofa. But if they came in there and they were crying, I'd stop my line and we're gonna pray for this person. We're gonna touch and agree. People don't know what you deal with. I just know that something is going on with my sister or my brother. Can we take a few moments to touch and agree that whatever needs to happen for him or her, we're going to do it? You know what I'm saying? And when I got outside of myself and realized that everything that I was going through wasn't for me, but for somebody else, that made it a lot harder, easier for me to get through as well. I didn't take everything so personal. If we think everything is always happening to us, why me? Woe is me. Why? Why not you? Maybe you can go through it for somebody else. You can give them tools that they need. You know what I mean? And when I realized that, life just became better for me. So good or bad, I'm excited to be Jessica.
Oh. So, okay. I know this is supposed to be an interview about business, and we can do that, but we have to have this conversation.
Absolutely.
This is Women's History Month, and it is the 8th, and I think it's of no coincidence that I've come across you. We've been having the conversation in my circle of spirituality and the importance therein. With what you just said, confirmed what I've been feeling. I feel like I had been one of those people of why me for quite a long time. But when you said why not me, I have to remember that everybody has their cross to bear. And it's interesting, for the longest, I've had the hardest time booking men to perform interviews on my podcast. And to the point where it just stood out to me. It didn't bother me, but it was just something I noticed. And I recently had a conversation with another friend of mine, and we were jokingly saying that men are so worried about perception that women will always be stronger because they are taught to shed the perception at an earlier age than we are. And you just confirmed that, because you were saying how at an early age you tried to live in the light of someone that you weren't. You then lived in your truth, and you decided that no matter what, no matter the instance, whatever you went through, you could still be a model testimony for someone else. And that is the definition of selflessness: to put yourself aside no matter what you're going through, and still recognize how fortunate you are enough to sit and agree and pray with someone, regardless of your surrounding. Frankly, I feel like, is juxtaposed to the perception of what it is to be godly. A lot of people think when you are a follower of Christ, you're always at church every Sunday. But I'm quick to tell people Jesus was in the streets, bro.
Now, wasn't he? Really?
He was in the street with 12 goons. One of them cut a guy's ear off. So let's not forget that.
Can we please talk about it?
Yeah. So with you saying that, I firmly believe that you came across, and usually I knew yesterday when you understood me rescheduling that I needed to sit down and talk with you. And I was literally sitting out in my car, in my trunk, waiting on you. Literally waiting on you to hit me back.
Wow.
And then as soon as I looked at my phone, there you were. checking in on me. And I'm like, wow, this got to happen. That's when I was like, you know what? Let's do it now. Because I feel something moving. And so, yeah,
Wow.
there's stuff
So
moving.
I'll say this. I think it may have been your post the other day. And we were talking about this same conversation as far as men and not having that space. And it's funny that you mentioned not having men on your podcast, because one of my good guy friends was just saying to me, everything that you do is always geared towards women. Well, what about the guys? I just had this conversation about 2 weeks ago. And for me, it's a bit uncomfortable if I can, and not that I can't talk to you, because I think we're having a great conversation right now, but I just feel like women relate more with women and men relate more with men. However, I do think that this conversation is needed so that we can get a clearer understanding of one another.
Right.
I can't even imagine. So let me, first of all, before I say anything else, let me honor you, Black man, because I can't even imagine what it must be like to be in your shoes daily. When I look at you, I look at my son with the locks and the beard, and you have on your hoodie. And I tell my baby, because he's 6'5" and his locks are down his back, and he has this full, and he never smiles. And I tell him, son, you can't go outside with your hoodie on and sometimes just smile, because I want my son to come back home in one piece. Nobody would know that my son would literally give you the shirt off his back. Nobody would know that he's only been in college literally physically since January, and he's already the student of the year. You wouldn't know that if you looked at my son. And the fact that you walk around with a target on your back simply because of the color of your skin, and you still make yourself transparent, and you're still vulnerable, and you still allow yourself to go through whatever it is that you're going through, when I know sometimes you want to give up and just say F it all. So let me honor you for staying true to who you are, because you're on a mission. This is needed. If you've ever doubted what you are doing right now with your podcast, let me erase every single one of them. Black man, we need your voice. We need you. So I just wanted to encourage you this evening. I appreciate you for having this platform for us to sit and have conversations like this. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Like I said, I completely had the intention of just strictly highlighting business, but with the words you were using and the instances, and with you being as honest and forefront you were, I just felt compelled to tell you that, So
Well, thank you.
Shout out to your son. Part of the reason I even locked my hair is because I found myself judging men with locked hair.
Wow.
And it was when I was younger. I'd be like, oh, that everybody want to be a thug, And then I saw the meaning of it, and I saw the journey that it takes, and how much you have to let go as far as your appearance goes to get to this state here.
Right.
Months of being unsightful. I'm just going to be honest. They call it the ugly phase because it truly is. But I talked with an older gentleman, and he told me, he was like, keep going. You will slowly learn to let the material things go and perceptions go. And I knew it. I had to keep them. I have to absolutely keep them. And you're right. The reason I do wear a hoodie is because I want to exemplify and destroy the concept that a Black man in a hoodie is a criminal. That's why it's electric blue, because I feel like I am more than what I appear. I have the personality to captivate you if you give me the opportunity. So yes, it's the sole reason I do it.
It's funny because my son mentioning locks, he wanted them. So my sister is a loctician. And so she had taken her time and energy and locked his hair. And then he went to school. He was in the 6th or the 7th grade and went to school. And I came home from work and he had washed his hair out because somebody said they didn't like it, or however that conversation was. And when I tell you, and I'm not the one to just whoop, I beat his ass. So let me just be very clear.
Understandably.
Because I'm like, look, that's what you wanted to do. And you don't let nobody now tell you that you can't have it. So he started in the 8th grade and now I can't get him. I'm like, son, you ready to cut your locks? Mom, what you talking about? Now, I just remember 4 or 5 years ago, you didn't, but now I'm like, son, you know what? You can go into the military. You just don't have to cut your hair. Mom, no, you know, now you arguing with me. Right. And so I started locking like almost 2 years ago. And so now he's talking about, oh, you need to get like me. And, you know, so now it's kind of like a little rival
competition going on in the house.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. But he owns who he is. And I am a firm believer. I've never made my son feel like he couldn't cry or he couldn't have feelings or he couldn't have emotions and those things like that, because that's what makes you who you are. When his basketball, we're actually here in El Paso, and we moved here last year in the middle of his senior year. I was absolutely nervous. One of the best compliments I could have gotten from a man was the fact that he said he would love for my daughter to marry him, love for his daughter to marry my son. That's the best compliment a parent could ever get.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and it's because you honor yourself. I've been thankful and grateful in that space that I was able to let my children see themselves. If you make yourself happy, you're making me happy. I never was that parent where you need to do this to make me happy. No, I need you to look at you in the mirror and I need you to be happy with the person that you are. And I don't care what that looks like. If you're happy with whatever it is that you're doing, you do it. You do it. Nobody else, to include your mama, gets to dictate what your happiness looks like. Now, don't get crazy, because then I might have to, you know, put them uh-ohs on you. However, things within reason, you know, you got to make yourself happy.
As long as it's not detrimental to yourself or others, you know.
Exactly.
We on the same page.
Yeah, but you know, some people like to get, you know, they'll take things out of content and it'll just fly over their head. So let me be very clear.
Right.
Selling dope is not making you or me happy. So let's not do that.
That was about to be the very next words out of my mouth.
That's what we not doing.
Right.
Because when you go to jail, don't call me, because I'm not coming to get you out. Let's be clear.
Right. And I'm gonna circle back to something you said, because I think it's important, because I think when some people hear they beat their kids' ass, they take that out of context because it's 2020. But it's the reason you did it. It wasn't because of money lost from doing his hair. No, you beat his ass to tell him, don't you ever conform to what somebody else thinks about you.
Yes.
So that part.
It really upset my spirit to hear that the reason you did it was for somebody else, when I have been on board and I used to spend a whole lot of money however he wanted his hair cut. And I mean, I spend money specifically on that one kid to make sure that, you know, his tennis shoes had to be on point, his hair had to be cut, you know. I did that for you. And for you to tell me that another 7th grader has that much control of what goes on in my house, no, we're not doing that. And I didn't want him to feel like he had to conform to anybody else. So what? They don't like it. Did they put the shirt on your back?
Nope.
Did they put the shoe? Did they feed you yesterday?
No, they did not.
And they probably didn't like it anyway because their hair was nappy. If we can be very honest about it.
That part. It's a lot of
I am so
jealous.
Yes, anybody that's criticizing you got issues within themselves. It's not for me to decide what looks good on you or what fits you. That's not up to me. If you felt good when you walked out the door, brother, you know what? You fly. You wear, hey, it may not be my style,
right?
But it's not up to me to dim your light because I don't like it. Who am I?
That's fact. That's fact. And I can honestly say I feel like that type of lesson saves someone's life, because if you recognize that early, you're less likely to fall into peer pressure and stupid decisions. You can avoid a lot of mistakes like that. So kudos to
And
you.
that's why he is. Why he is the person that he is now. He is so unbothered. He's unmoved. He is a strong tower. And he is that person that you can now. He don't remember to take the trash out. I have to go upside his head about that. But at the core of who he is, I don't have to worry about the decisions that he make concerning him. He's gonna make the right decisions. He's not going, and he's that dude that can be with the dope dealer and the nerd, and everybody just loves him.
Right.
It's fine, but he knows who he is. And so I'm just thankful. And I pray to God that he just remains that person, that he doesn't allow life to just eat him up and take over, because he has really grown into his own person. And so I'm thrilled that I get to call him my son. So,
and I salute you as a Black mother, instilling that into your son. That's a lesson that a lot of people spend a lot of years trying to figure out. They usually sometimes don't get it till it's too late, until they're incarcerated in the system, or, ultimately no longer with us, so catching that early,
Yeah, between him and my daughter, I had to, though, because I was a single parent. I had 2 children by the time I was 20, and I was always working, and I had something to do all the time. But I didn't want them to get so caught up in everything else around them, And my daughter, I will say, she kind of grew up a little bit faster, and I probably confused her, because one minute I wanted her to be the kid, and then the next minute I wanted her to be the baby mama, quote unquote, because she took care of him. I tell her all the time, I made the money, but she paid my bills, and she keeps me in line even today. I'll be glad when she get home, so I can just hand her my debit card and she can go pay my bills, and I ain't got to worry about it. Because she keep her mama together.
Partner system.
But yes, but she is such, even her, she's just like, I'm me. Take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm.
If I can just get her to kind of let other people in her circle a little bit. But she's very protective of her spirit and her energy. And so I can't be mad about that.
I can't knock that. After experiencing it's a difference between having a circle and just having observers,
Yes.
So every transaction you have with people, either pours into you or withdraws from you. And if you recognize people are withdrawing from you, having that wall to protect your well, I get it. I 1000% get it. But you're right, though. You can't block everybody forever. You can block your blessing by avoiding all people. You don't want to become nihilistic, so to speak. You have to just pray for discernment, so you can recognize what people are, who they are, and what their intentions are by their actions, not what they say.
And then I'm noticing
actions.
Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes people got to act negative towards you, so you will know to see it again. I understand the spirit of discernment. Don't get me wrong. But guess what? If you've never experienced a certain thing, then you don't necessarily know what to look out for.
'Tis true.
Yeah. So I'm not saying to put yourself in certain situations to just be hurt. No, I'm not saying that. However, when you find yourself there, then sometimes your discernment may need to kick on, because sometimes I don't want to see from the beginning. I'll be the first to admit, sometimes I need to get in the thick of it, because I need to know that if and when I let you go, when I do let you go, it's for good. I ain't mad. I love you. I'm going to pray for you, but you just can't be over here.
Right.
So sometimes, we got to experience certain things, that's just my take on it.
No.
So when I see it again, I recognize the signs. Then my discernment can kick in the next go around. Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
Nah, you know what? Thank you, but no, thank you.
It's kind of like when you catch a cold. You catch a cold, but you'll never catch that particular cold ever again, because you build.
Exactly.
So I got you. It makes sense. Okay. All right. Now, Miss Jess, I have a proposal. This session,
Okay.
we do have to pause this session, and I am going to share this separately. I'm not going to share this as a normal business minute. I'm going to make this a podcast episode of a Black man and a Black woman, if that's all right with you. Can we do this again next week?
I love it. Absolutely.
Because we definitely
Absolutely.
touch on your business, but I feel like this conversation we just had definitely needs to be shared with the world. So I'm going to set this.
Well, let me tell you something. So I'm not necessarily worried about the business. Your blessings and the things that's attached to you make room for itself. This conversation is needed. So if we never talk about the business, understand I'm okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Because if somebody's watching this, they're going to come find me and they can find me on my page, what I do. So that's okay.
All right.
Or they'll hit you up and they'll say, well, who is that? You know?
Yes,
so
ma'am.
We don't have to dedicate a whole episode about me talking about living well with Jess. I think this is needed and I'm definitely on board.
Yes, ma'am. So, well, that being said, let's do this again next week around this time.
Perfect.
And
Perfect.
Let's keep this going. I really appreciate you for having this conversation. This is completely left field, but I don't care. This was definitely what my soul needed. And I feel like somebody else needed to hear this. So That being said, Jessica Keesee, and she will be returning. Best believe this. She will be returning. And this has been Sirr, the 2020 Podcast LLC, and we're out.